for a lot of our past clients who recently bought a home within the last 1 or 2 years. So we're starting a 5-part series on successful homeownership. The first one we're going to start with is about the top 10 mistakes we've seen our clients make over our careers after they close on the house. I've invited Stephanie Wilson, a top producing realtor here in the local market, to kind of sit down and talk to us a little bit about some of the things her clients have done. And I'll share a lot of things that my clients have done and just try and make sure that you guys don't make the same mistakes. Because there's a lot of things that are going on. When you're buying the house, all the things are going crazy. You're looking for homes. You're trying to get the financing. You close. You're signing your name 65 times. And then you get some keys. And then it's like, well, now what? So on all our client calls, we talk about what it means to be a successful homeowner. So this series is going to walk you through step by step all the things we talk about. And this is going to be part 1 of that 5-part series. So today we're talking about those 10 mistakes that we've seen clients make. Stephanie and I have known each other for a few years now. We've done a lot of deals together. She's done a lot of deals over her career. So I wanted to let you, Stephanie, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us how long you've been in the market, kind of what is your expertise in the area, primarily where do you work, and just let everybody know about you.
Okay, thanks for having me on. And I've been doing this since 2012. And I still love it. I still get excited every time I meet a new client. I help both buyers and sellers. So over the years, I've helped hundreds of families, mostly in the Argyle, Texas area, just generally that Denton County around the Metroplex. I grew up here and I've lived in Argyle since 2010, so I know it pretty well. But yeah, it's such an exciting time and it's such an honor to help people with one of the most important decisions they're going to make. And it's where they raise their families. It's where they make all their memories. It's a really important part of their lives. So I'm glad you're doing this because a lot of this information, it's not intuitive and you might not have any idea. And some people have good guidance from their parents, maybe a little more than they want to get. But there's a lot of things that you don't just know. You're not just born knowing. And like you said, you close on the house, you get the keys and you're like, okay, now
Now
what?
just unpack. Go unpack all your
Right.
boxes.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you agreed to do that because I know you have a wealth of knowledge. Every time I talk to one of your clients, they're very well prepared. So I appreciate you hopping on here to help us. So we're going to run through 10 things. This is going to be more just a conversation between Stephanie and I. So we've got some things we want to make sure that you are well aware of after you get into that house. So the first mistake we've seen a lot of our clients make is draining their savings on move-in day. That is a common mistake that we see. And I know back early in my career, I had it happen one time where I wasn't even sure how my clients were going to be able to get home and they didn't have gas to get home. That's a horrible feeling. So Stephanie, why don't you give us a couple things that you've talked to clients about over your career in situations like that of how do you prevent that from happening as you start getting into a house?
Yeah. So first of all, you're going to probably drain a lot of your savings just with your closing costs and your down payment and all of that. But you've got to make sure you're going to be so excited to have this new house. You're going to want to make it your own, but you've got to keep some in reserve. So you can't blow it all on getting custom closets and getting plantation shutters. And you don't have to furnish every single room of the house from the get go. I know you want to show your friends and your family and you want your house to look Pinterest perfect for all your social media, but it's just not realistic. So don't think that don't spend all of your money and then you don't have anything left for the important things is now you're a homeowner and we're going to talk about this in a minute. There's a lot of other things that aren't as fun that might come up and you're going to need some money for that.
So a good general rule of thumb that we talk about with clients is try and have 3 to 6 months of expenses and savings. Now that doesn't include repairs, right? You might want to make sure you have another $5,000 or so just as you move into a home. You don't know what might break. You may have water heaters. A lot of times, Stephanie, I know with your clients, you have negotiated home warranties, which will help cover a lot of that stuff. But you might want to prioritize utilities, safety, water heater, all the mechanical stuff of your house over, man, I would love to have that new couch sitting there with that 84-inch TV. Your current TV is probably just fine, but prioritizing your finances in that way just goes a long way into helping you not be so stressed out. We talk a lot about, I don't want you to be house poor. Well, I don't want you to be poor after closing as well.
Right.
So as Stephanie just mentioned, there's a lot of additional expenses that you just don't know about. The number one thing that clients don't really know about when they move in is how much is home maintenance, right? making sure you budget for that. So just kind of slow step into that. So don't waste all your money or don't spend all your money getting into the house, because the first year of homeownership will be a lot less stressful when you have those cash reserves. And the last thing I want you to do is taking on additional debt from putting all this stuff on a credit card that could impact things later on.
Right.
Anything else on that one, Stephanie?
Nope.
Okay. One thing I will say about budgeting, okay? Even if you can save $200 a month towards these emergency funds, do that. I don't care if it's $100 a month. Start saving. It'll snowball faster than you think. That way, when something does happen, it's a lot less stressful. It's going to be stressful, but you have the reserves there. So start small. You don't have to start $1,000 a month when you first start out savings on this stuff. Okay. So this ties right into number 2, not budgeting for invisible costs.
Mm-hmm.
Your house payment is just one aspect of your house. So you've got the taxes, insurance, HOA. If you buy a house in an HOA, I'm the HOA president of mine. So trust me, I understand this.
Right.
The assessments are going to come up. You may have to do something to a pool or a common area. They're going to come to you guys with, hey, I need an additional $500 or $1,000 that's not anticipated at the time you close. So just kind of keep that in mind. Your homeowner's insurance premiums, they're going to fluctuate year to year based on what's going on with your house. Taxes, those are going to fluctuate year to year based on what's going on with your house. I know Stephanie's going to talk about this a little later as far as how do you combat that? Should you combat that? The answer is 100% yes. Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about that now.
Yeah, let's go and do that.
Every year I get calls in the spring because that tax bill, that assessment comes out. You can protest that. It doesn't always work. And I've personally even hired a third party to do it, but we'll give you comps, but don't just say yes and pay that, because it can make your payment go way up. And we're not going to get into all the nitty gritty, but if you can keep that from being a runaway train every year and keep it lowered, they're only allowed to raise it by a certain amount if you have your homeowner's exemption, which your homestead exemption we'll cover in a minute.
Yep.
But that can really make a difference on your monthly payment, is the property tax increase.
Yeah. So that's why we say having 3 to 6 months of reserves plus additional funds. And it doesn't have to be sitting in your checking account. It could be through any one of your accounts, but just having access to it. I don't want to be tied up in a retirement account, something like that, where you have to take on a taxable event to pull money out. Sometimes it happens. I get that. But I want you to have the money liquid accessible to where if something does come up, it's easier for you to do that. HOA dues can fluctuate year to year. All right. So and again, we're talking about this HOA stuff because not every home is in an HOA, but some things are going to break on the house. So make sure you have money set aside. I think the general theme here from number 1 and 2 is don't spend all your money getting into the house. Okay. So, all right. Number 3, overextending on credit right after closing. This is something, Stephanie, I know you and I talked a lot about because clients get super excited. I got a new house. You mentioned this under the first one as well about don't spend all your money. But what do people do with your clients, they get so excited and they want to start spending money? What mistakes have you seen them make?
Well, it's really, and maybe as a lender, you can shed some light on this. When you get the 36 months, no interest, and you're like, well, great, we can furnish the whole house. And you just start charging things up and you go to Home Depot and we have a washer and dryer, but oh my gosh, how great would this new one look? And next thing you spent 20 grand on all this stuff and credit cards. And that's not,
I may or may not have done that at some point in distant
listen,
past.
we had some rooms to go free financing, but
So remember, and this is something I've told all my clients, don't have your credit pulled. The more you have your credit pulled for stuff like that, the lower your credit score is going to become. That could affect things down the road because we manage your mortgage like someone manages your 401k. We talk about that all the time. You want to keep your credit score high as possible. So what I would suggest, wait 90 days. Once you close, live in the house, but don't start buying stuff. Don't start having people. I don't care how cool the discounted Old Navy is. You have your credit pulled, get a 10% discount. Just pay the money. Don't have anybody pull your credit. The impact on your overall finances could be pretty significant as you start to get your credit pulled more and more.
right.
So your mortgage is now your largest financial obligation. So every dollar you spend elsewhere competes against that mortgage, about the taxes, the insurance, all that stuff. So just be mindful. I want you to be excited. Stephanie wants you to be excited about owning a home. We're not trying to be buzzkills here, but we want you to be successful homeowners. We want you not to be in your house and the only thing you can do is make a mortgage payment because you have no other money. Everything else is tied up and you're watching your credit score drop more and more. Anything else on that, Steph?
Nope, we're
Okay.
good.
Number 4, this is a big one. Okay.
Mm.
Ignoring routine maintenance until something breaks. I think both Stephanie and I have experience in this, but Stephanie, why don't you lead us off with what that actually means?
Okay, so when I'm representing buyers, I've seen a whole lot of inspection reports, and you can tell who's been a good homeowner and who hasn't. So you're going to want, this is just a few little things. And when I, with my clients, I try to send them seasonal updates of what should you be doing around your house. But like your HVAC system, you should have that service twice a year. It doesn't cost that much. It's maybe $150 for a tune-up, but you want to have it before you start using your heater, and then in the spring before you start using your AC. And that will just keep the life. That's the number one thing that I see buyers asking for is they want it tuned up anyway. But if you can keep servicing that regularly, it will really extend the life. And you won't have to have the big services as much. You're going to want to have your hot water heater flush annually. You want to have quarterly exterminator come out because what if there's some carpenter ants that you didn't know about? So you want to catch those kinds of things. If there's been a hailstorm, there's roofers that will go do a check for free. You don't want to let that sit for too long and then end up with some damage inside your house. So just some things like that. Just don't I have a client who they've lived in the house for about 15 years and it was an older home, and they just didn't do anything to the house, and now they're trying to sell it, and it's costing them thousands of dollars to do some things with the roof and the foundation and all kinds of problems, the AC, and you don't get to just sell your house as is. You're gonna pay for it one way or the other. So if you can do some routine maintenance along the way, it's gonna save you thousands of dollars later.
Yeah. So one of the things I hear a lot from agents I work with and even clients, they talk about the house has a lot of deferred maintenance,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
They just didn't do it, right? And so walk your house every year, walk around your house, just see what's out there. How many times do you go around the back side of your house over there? No, no one does that. Every year, walk around there, spring into the fall. Just take a look, see what's going on. Maybe you've got some rodents running around your walls. You didn't know about it. Maybe they've been chewing in the bricks in the bottom and the soffits in your house.
Mhm.
So just inspect that stuff because a small $150 repair can quickly turn into a $5,000 if you
Yeah.
just act like you don't see it. So don't be that homeowner because it's easier to spend 150 bucks than wait. And now you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on that. There are
Absolutely.
routine maintenance schedules you want to make sure or you stay on top of. Checking your AC filters, as you said, flushing out your water heater. So get on ChatGPT. It'll give you the exact maintenance schedule for your house. You have all the tools necessary right now to do all that. And Stephanie talked to her clients. I talk to my clients about that. I get phone calls all the time with people asking questions about that. That's what we're here for. This is not a 30-day transaction and you never hear from us again. That's not how Stephanie and I work. We're actively involved with our clients post-closing. So if there's a question comes up, you're welcome to call us. Send us an email. We'll walk you through it. But just remember, there's a lot of routine maintenance with owning a home that you just can't let slide because, as Stephanie said, it'll cost you a lot when you go to sell it. All right. So this may not be a fair question with Stephanie, but give me an idea on if for deferred maintenance, is it an extra $10,000 or is that even a realistic number that it costs you when you go to sell your house?
Yeah,
Can you?
even on $500,000 houses, if they haven't done anything and we've got bad windows and bad AC and caulking and electric problems, it can easily be a $10,000 credit that they're going to ask for. So you're going to pay for it one way or the other. So if you can save because you've maintained it, you caught it early, you extended the life of some of your major things, then that will save you money in the long run.
So I know Stephanie has this, and if you don't have any contractors, ask your agent.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep a running list of contractors. You're going to need someone for a plumber. You're going to need an electrician. You're going to need to know these people. So if you have If your hot water heater starts leaking, you don't want to start searching online right now, just hoping somebody come out on a Saturday. You need these people.
Yeah, and that's the importance of working with a local realtor when you're buying a home. For instance, in Argyle, I'm plugged into the Argyle Business Association. So I see my contractors that I recommend every Friday morning. So I know who's coming into people's home and they have accountability because they're going to see me every week. And so they better do a good job or it's going to be a little awkward. But your realtor should have a pretty good network of trusted vendors. They're a great go-to resource for things like that.
Just hold on to the numbers, because the last time you want to start searching for a plumber is when you have a water leak.
Yeah.
A $200 repair can turn into a $20,000 claim on your insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Number 5.
I think that takes us into number 5.
Yeah, perfect. So number 5, not knowing where the shutoffs are.
I mean, you
I
are
mean, most
having
people
that
don't.
plumbing problem.
Yeah, no one really knows what a shutoff is. So why don't you, do you want, what, do you want me to talk, want to touch on that first, or do you want to take that?
Back in, what was it, 2021, when we had the ice storm, everyone learned where their shutoff valve was, and that's where you turn off your water. Because when the freeze happened, I know at my house, we had both of our hot water heaters. They were tankless on the exterior of our house, and they froze and they busted, and it was a mess. If you don't catch it in time and you can't turn your water off, then you're going to have a ton of water damage. So you want to know where that is. And the good news is, for things like that, when you have your home inspection, go to the inspection, because toward the end, that inspector is going to take you through the house, or keep that report and look at it again, because it's that report, that inspection you paid for is not just to tell you about all the problems with the house. It's also to tell you about the house. And even in my own house, and I'll go back through sometimes and be like, oh yeah, I forgot about this and I forgot about this. It's just a good little manual about your new home.
Yes, I would encourage you guys to go to Home Depot and get a valve shutoff tool. It's like $9. Okay.
Right.
I didn't know what that was when I bought my first house. And I was working in my shower I'm just going to be the handyman and change out all the plumbing fixtures, all that stuff. And my the water started shooting straight out from the wall. And I had no idea where the stuff was. So here I am, the upstairs is just flooding into the shower. I'm running around outside going, I think it's outside. Right. And I'm out there with a flashlight don't do that. All right. Get the shutoff tool. It's not very expensive, and just know where the shutoffs are, and know the difference between the main shutoff valve to your house, which is outside and the individual fixtures. You can't just shut off water to this sink, as an example, expect the whole house to be shut off. I know
Right.
that sounds kind of silly, but that's a common mistake. And I may or may not have made that mistake. I will be plausible deniability here, but just know where all that stuff is. Take a tour of your house. As Stephanie said, go to your inspection. They can walk you through that. Know where your electrical panel is.
Mhm.
Keep a flashlight by your electrical panel, right? Because when power goes out, you're trying to find that to see what's going on. So it's the small things like that can make the difference in your experience living in your home. Okay. Anything else on that stuff?
Nope.
Okay. This is something that I'll take mistake number 6, not reassessing your mortgage over time. My clients don't have to worry about this, because as we go through this, we are actively managing their mortgage for them. We proactively reach out to them and let them know when it's time to do something else. So there's no guesswork. But a lot of times clients are just kind of left on their own, and they're watching the news. They're watching TikTok. They're watching all this stuff to find out what are rates doing, and they have no idea. So
Mhm.
they're just kind of guessing. And you never know whether you get the lowest rate on any kind of refinance until probably 6 months after the rates hit. So having someone actively manage your mortgage is a huge deal. Stay on top of that. Just check in. You don't have to be a market watcher. You don't have to know the bond market and understand how mortgage-backed securities work. That's my job. But actively look at it saying, okay, is now a good time? Reassess that every year. We have annual reviews with all our clients. How's it going? And we've given you all these different steps throughout this process that over the next 5 webinars, we're going to help you with. But is now the right time? Get somebody you trust to be able to help you with that. Because otherwise it could cost you several $1,000s in paying additional interest that you don't necessarily need to pay. You could also pay more in PMI, because at some point on conventional loans, the PMI can go away. Your home's appreciated. So if you bought a home in 2020, it's a lot different value right now than it was back then. So if you could do, you don't even have to refinance to get rid of PMI in a lot of cases. Have someone you trust that can help you manage that to know when is the right time, when's not the right time to make changes to your mortgage. Steph, anything on that?
Well, that's one of the reasons that I love sending clients to you because not every lender does that. A lot of times, lenders, they're done on closing day. You never hear from them again. So that's something that I really appreciate that
Well,
you
thank you.
guys do for them.
So another thing to think about as far as strategy goes, most people, when they refinance their house, they're just looking to save money.
Hmm.
But what we talk about with clients is how do you reposition the savings that you're making to helping your long-term financial plans? So if I'm going to refinance and I'm saving $400 a month, what do I do with that? Right? Do I just continue to make the same payment, but pay the extra $400 towards principal? Or do I sit down with my financial planner and start planning out my retirement, college education for the kids, start letting that money make money for me elsewhere? Having a strategy to do for what the savings on your refinance is going to do for you is extremely important, right? I know sometimes budgets are tight and $400 a month, and I need a new car, my car broke, something along those lines. That's okay. But have the conversation with your lender is, okay, how do I use this money to increase my net worth over time? And that's the conversation that you need to be having. If you're not, you can reach out to me. I'll be happy to have those conversations. But those are the small things that there's a difference between someone that's just trying to sell you debt and someone who has your long-term financial plans and helping you get on the path to creating financial freedom. That's what our goal is here. All right. So number 7, updating your home insurance properly. Okay. We said this earlier. Most people get their insurance and it auto renews and they never check it. They're hoping they never need it, but your insurance premiums can change year to year. If you live in North Texas, which most everybody here does, hailstorms wreak havoc on your insurance premiums. So if you try to renew insurance in the last 2 or 3 years, you saw a pretty good increase from insurance carriers. So review that every year because there's an opportunity for you to save. And one thing I've learned from insurance companies is some carriers, they have a target niche market. They have better premiums in some markets than in others. Some do better on older homes. Some do better on estate homes with larger homes. But check that out. Don't just take the renewal. I don't care if you like your agent or not. I liked my agent for a long time as well, but when my premiums tripled, hey man, I got to do something else. So don't just set it and forget it. Actively look at that, just like you're reassessing that. That's something we talk about on our annual reviews with our clients. Hey, how's your insurance doing? Because our annual reviews are going to be the same time your insurance renews.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you guys to look at that on an annual basis to make sure you're saving as much money as you possibly can. Another problem we see with that is underinsuring your house. All right, when you get into the house, you're just trying to save as much money as you can. You probably made a 5-minute phone call to an insurance company because the lender said you need insurance. You don't know what dwelling coverage is. You don't know what replacement cost is. And you're just kind of, okay, I'm told I need to have this. So I've seen this many times where they'll insure your house for one amount, but the cost to rebuild it is drastically higher. Heaven forbid something happens. Now you're stuck because they're going to give you this amount of money, but it's going to cost you a lot more to rebuild your house. So review that. Check your replacement costs. Okay. Your insurance company should be able to help you with that. If they can't or won't, you're with the wrong insurance company. Okay. Cheaper in a situation like that is not always better. Cheaper insurance sounds good when you get it until you need it. So just kind of keep that in mind and remember that. We won't get into umbrella policies because very few clients actually have that. So, all right. Number 8. This is when,
Yeah.
yeah, making big renovations before actually living in the space for any length of time.
Okay. So, what I recommend to everyone is live in your house for a season at least. And you know what? If you bought the house and you consulted with an architect and you have a contractor and that was the plan from the get-go, fine. But if you just have some different ideas, I cannot tell you how many times people tell me, we wish we would have waited. Get in the house and see what your family patterns are because you might think that you want your kitchen to be designed this certain way, or you want to take down this wall or that. And then you live there and you realize, oh, you know what? This is not really how we use this space. So just live in it for a little while before you start going to making major renovations. I did this with the house I'm in now. My husband just wanted to get it all done before we moved in. Well, first of all, we ended up having to pay out the wazoo for temporary arrangements because it, of course, took way longer than we planned. And we rushed it. And I wish that we would have just done more room by room instead of just throwing up these bathrooms and not being super thoughtful about it, because then we're on a timeline and we're just trying to get it all done. I wish that we would have just waited and let's do this bathroom and then you really think about it and then let's move on to this room. I also hear from people, do one room at a time and just make that one the best that you want it to be before you just try to tackle everything. But
Where were you back when I did my house? What in the world? I've renovated 2 homes. I had a second floor on one of my
oh
while we were living
gosh.
there with small kids.
Okay,
Don't do
that's a
that.
great
Don't
idea.
recommend that,
That's a great
right?
idea.
When we renovated our house here, we lived in it. That is a train wreck.
But you lived in it first and you knew what your living patterns were. I think it's
Correct.
you buy a house and then you're trying to day one start making all these renovations. I'm just saying, I think you should just hit the pause button for a minute and make sure that's really what you want to do.
I think that's great advice. And the room by room thing, it takes a lot more patience,
Hmm.
and I'm not very patient. I'm like, let's just do the whole thing. I want
Yeah.
it done. I'm like your husband. I just want it done. Right. And one other thing to think about as you start making changes, budget probably 20% more than you think it's going to cost.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Because you're going to have cost overruns. You're going to see stuff behind your walls. You're like, okay, I didn't even know that was there.
Yep.
Why did they do that? I got to reroute this and just plan on that. No, we're not saying don't do it. Just be mindful of the costs associated with it because it can escalate pretty quickly. Your $25,000 kitchen upgrade could be $50,000 before you know it. Okay.
Mhm.
What else you got? What other tips you have for us on that piece?
No, I think that's the main thing.
Okay. So don't go right away and knock down the kitchen walls.
Give it a beat.
Just
Just give it a
give it
miss.
60 to 90 days. Okay. Another thing, Stephanie kind of reiterated this or alluded to this earlier. Another thing a common mistake we see is not saving or organizing your home documents after closing. Most people get the documents from the title company and what do? They throw them in a drawer and they forget about them. The number one thing that's in those documents is your property survey. So
Mhm.
Stephanie, tell us why it's so important to have a copy of that.
Is when you go to sell your home, and you may remember this if you just bought a house, if the seller doesn't have the survey, then it could be a seller expense. And so it could, and often it is a seller expense. It's negotiable, but that could save you $600 to $800 or more, depending on how big your property is. So just, I tell people, look in that little folder that the title company gave you, and it should be right on top. They usually give you 3 or 4 copies of it, and it needs to have that seal on it on the bottom, and that's all we need. We just need to now, if you've put in a poll or you've made some additions, that's gonna change the survey, so we'll have that conversation then. But that's just a simple thing. But the other things that I would say on organizing home documents is as you live in the home, keep your receipts or keep some sort of record of when you're doing the major improvements. Because a good realtor, when it's time to sell your house, is going to compile a list of all those upgrades that you've done. And it can be hard to remember. If you're like me, I've got the worst memory and the worst sense of time. I don't remember what I did 5 years ago. And so you want to establish a value when you go to resell it. And so you want to remember about those lights fixtures that you changed, or that flooring you did in that back bedroom, or that hot water heater, all those things. Just keep a list of those because it will really come in handy when you go to sell.
Yeah. So one of the things that I know I do with our clients, and Stephanie, you're part of this as well, is we have something called Home Binder. It's a digital vault for all the documents you have, right? So you can store them in there. One of the things, personal experience, if you change the paint colors in your house or you add floors, keep track of what color you painted the walls. Keep track of what color you painted the floors. Because if you ever have to do anything to the floors and you can't remember the color of the wood floors there, guess what? You get to do the whole, it's not going to match. So instead of doing a 10 by 10 square, you may do a 4,000 square feet down below, right? That may or may not have happened to me. So the home binder is something we give our clients. Keep it there. Now, another important factor with keeping all this stuff organized is when it comes to selling your home, you're going to pay capital gains or potentially pay capital gains on the property. So you have your cost basis to get into the house. That's what you paid for it. When you go to sell it, you're going to pay capital gains on the difference. Now you have a $500,000 exemption for the first $500,000 as a married couple, $250,000 as a single person. You have that exemption for that first $500,000, but you want to raise your cost basis as much as you can. So if you spend $50,000, $100,000 in improvements on your property, keep track of that stuff. Because then when you go to sell the house and you get that tax bill, hey, now I went, instead of paying $500,000, I've got $600,000 tied to that house. That raises that cost basis and potentially can save you on some capital gains. Keep all that stuff accurate, keep it all together. And that way, when you go to sell your house, you give that to your realtor. Stephanie's clients will give that to her. And think of, whenever you buy a car, what do you have? You have a Carfax. Imagine having a Carfax on the house you sell. Would that be more attractive to a buyer when they know all the routine maintenance you did, all the upgrades you did, and it's all organized? I would think so. So just keep that in mind. If you don't have a home binder, you don't have something like that, just keep a file cabinet, put everything in there. It'll make your life so much easier when you have to make updates to your house, make any changes to paint, and go to sell your house. It could save you a lot of money. Okay. And the last one, we've reached number 10. This is a big one because it's going to save you on taxes. Missing your homestead exemption filing dates or forgetting to do it altogether. Stephanie, you want to start us off on that one?
Yes. So if this is your primary residence, because that has to be true, you can qualify for a homestead exemption. And I have, so heartbreaking when I'll come across a client who's spent years in their home and just never filed for it, because it could save you thousands of dollars. It's easy. It's free. You just go to your county website and file for it. You fill out a form. You don't have to pay someone to do it. The deadline is April 30th here in Texas. You can file it at any time, but for that tax year, April 30th is the deadline. And you will need to have your driver's license updated with the current address in order to fill it out. But it will help when we talked earlier about keeping your property taxes from being a runaway train. They can only raise a certain portion of it up to 10%, or they can only charge you up to 10%. They may assess it more, but it keeps it from getting really out of hand, which I'm sure y'all have seen on the news. There's some really sad stories out there of people who've been taxed out of their homes. But that is one way that you can protect yourself.
Yeah. So I've had clients who, well, I just forgot. Man, it's been 2 years, right? We remind you on your annual review calls, and the difference in the value of your house, because if you don't have a homestead exemption, the county can raise it to whatever they want, and you're just basically stuck until you fight it, right? The homestead exemption will limit their taxable increase to 10%, as Stephanie said, which is huge, right? So don't forget to do that. It's free. You're going to get all kinds of junk mail when you close on a house. Someone's going to go to the county and find out who just filed a warranty deed, and guess what? Now you're on their list. So they're going to send you all this mail. It's going to look really official. It'll look like it came from your lender, and it's not from your lender. Said, hey, pay me $75. I'll file your homestead exemption. It's free. So don't spend that any money. You do it one time and you don't have to do it again. So don't forget to do that. You'll get all kinds of reminders. People send you stuff in the mail. When you start seeing that, go, okay, I know Jim and Stephanie said this is important. Let me figure this out. And call us, email us. Hey, do I need to do this? Yes. An important thing, as Stephanie just said, make sure you change your driver's license first before you try and fill that out. Make sure your address on your driver's license matches the property address.
You can do that online. It's really not that painful. If you're a procrastinator like me, some of this stuff, you have it in your head that it's this big deal and it's going to take you all day. It doesn't. It really doesn't. And if you have trouble as you're filling out the form, call us. It's not hard.
It's not hard. It's an easy form to sell, and it'll save you a lot of money. Okay. As I look through here, I didn't really see anything else. Is there anything else that you thought of as we were going through these list of 10?
No, I feel like we really covered a lot of ground here, but I think overall it's save.
Yeah.
And don't make too many big decisions too early on. Enjoy your house. Live in it for a minute.
So we want to,
Take your
as she
time.
said, we want you to have fun. This is not Jim and Stephanie are just making sure I hate my house. No, we want you to love your house, but we want you to be smart about it. We want you to be protected from things that most people don't know about. They don't even think about. That's the whole purpose of this entire webinar series that we put together, is how do we help you become successful homeowners? In future webinars, you're going to hear from CPAs, from estate planning attorneys, from financial planners. We've got one that's going to come on about personal safety. That's going to be the next webinar we talk about, because Stephanie and I both have daughters that just went off to college. There's a big whole new world that they're involved in, and how do we protect ourselves and how do we protect our families? So this is going to build on each other. So we'll make sure that this video gets sent out. Stephanie, thank you so much for jumping on here. Hopefully it was well worth your time. I thank you for your wealth of knowledge and for your friendship. So we'll let you guys get back to your evenings. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care.